Self-care feels impossible after narcissistic abuse. And that's not because you're weak, lazy, or broken. It's because emotional manipulation, trauma bonding, and living with a covert narcissist quietly trained your brain to survive, not to rest. When your nervous system has been stuck in fight or flight for months or years, peace doesn't feel peaceful. It feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. Your body learned that love comes with tension, that calm is followed by chaos, that every good moment needs to be watched closely. So now when people say, just relax, take care of yourself, focus on healing, your brain hears, drop your guard. And it says, absolutely not. And that's the part nobody talks about. Leaving the relationship doesn't automatically turn off survival mode. You may be physically free, but your mind is still scanning for danger, still replaying conversations, still trying to predict problems before they happen. And here's where it gets tricky. Because what looks like self-sabotage on the outside is actually self-protection on the inside. But what happens when protection becomes the very thing keeping you stuck? After a narcissistic relationship, even small acts of self-care can feel uncomfortable, pointless, or even selfish, because for a long time, your needs were either ignored, criticized, or turned into problems. You learned that asking for rest caused conflict, that setting boundaries triggered emotional punishment, that choosing yourself led to guilt trips or silent treatment. So now, every time you try to do something good for yourself, your brain whispers, this won't last, or you should be doing something more useful, or someone's going to be mad about this. That voice isn't random, it's conditioning. Emotional manipulation doesn't just control your behavior, it reshapes your inner dialogue. It installs doubt where confidence should be and shame where peace should live. And the worst part is, the narcissist may be gone, but their voice still shows up in your head during the quiet moments, judging how you spend your time, your energy, your life. So instead of rest, you choose distraction. Instead of healing, you choose busyness, because staying tired feels safer than facing the silence. And that silence has something waiting in it that most people aren't ready to talk about yet. Then there's the exhaustion no amount of sleep seems to fix. Narcissistic abuse drains you on levels you can't see, emotionally, mentally, even physically, constantly analyzing moods, choosing words carefully, managing reactions, walking on eggshells. That's not just stressful, that's full-time emotional labor. And when you finally get out, your body crashes, but your mind keeps running. You want to rest, but your thoughts don't cooperate. You want to focus, but your concentration feels broken. You want motivation, but your energy feels stolen. So you start wondering, why can't I just get back to normal? Not realizing that what you're feeling isn't laziness, it's burnout from long-term psychological stress. Trauma bonding keeps your system addicted to emotional intensity, and when that intensity disappears, everything feels flat, empty, and confusing. It's not that life lost its color. It's that your brain is still adjusting to a world where it doesn't have to be on alert. But here's the part that surprises people. The crash isn't the end of your strength. It's actually the beginning of something else. And that shift changes how you see yourself completely. Another reason self-care feels hard is because narcissistic relationships train you to measure your worth by how much you give, how much you tolerate, and how well you keep things together. You became the fixer, the emotional support system, the problem solver, the peacemaker. So when nobody needs rescuing anymore, you feel lost. Your identity got wrapped around being useful to someone who never truly valued you. And now that role is gone, and your mind keeps asking, who am I if I'm not holding everything together? So you overwork, overthink, overhelp, and overextend, even when no one asked you to, because slowing down would mean facing the truth that your value was never supposed to come from suffering in silence. And that realization hits deep. It shakes how you see love, loyalty, and even strength. You start questioning the rules you lived by for so long. And once that questioning begins, there's no going back to who you were before, but what you grow into next is something most survivors don't see coming. And let's talk about the guilt, because that one is loud. You feel guilty for resting, guilty for saying no, guilty for not checking your phone, guilty for not being productive every minute. That guilt isn't random either. It's a leftover emotional leash. Narcissistic control works by making you feel responsible for other people's emotions. So your brain still believes that if you're okay, someone else must be upset, and that somehow that's your fault. So self-care feels wrong, like you're breaking an invisible rule, like you're getting away with something, like you don't deserve peace yet. And when guilt shows up, Most people respond by pushing themselves harder instead of listening to what their body is asking for. But here's what no one tells you: that guilt is actually a signal that you're doing something right. It means you're stepping out of an old pattern. And whenever you break a pattern, your nervous system panics before it adapts. But what happens after that panic settles? That's where real change begins. Then there's the fear of trusting yourself again. After emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and constant doubt, you stop believing your own judgment. You question your feelings. You second-guess your choices. You wonder if you're overreacting or not reacting enough. So when people say, listen to your body, do what feels good, that sounds nice, but your mind responds, I don't even know what feels good anymore. You are trained to ignore discomfort and stay longer than you should. So now even healthy signals feel confusing. Rest feels strange. Calm feels boring. Stability feels suspicious. Your system learned excitement through unpredictability, and now peace feels like something might be missing. And that's dangerous, because it can pull you back toward familiar chaos instead of healthy calm. But here's the shift that changes everything. Your discomfort with peace doesn't mean peace is wrong. It means your body is learning a new language. And once you understand that language, your choices start to look very different. And this is where self-care starts to change shape. It stops being bubble baths and motivational quotes and starts becoming something deeper, something quieter, something more powerful. It becomes choosing not to respond to people who drain you. It becomes going to bed instead of replaying conversations that don't matter anymore. It becomes eating when you're hungry, resting when you're tired, and leaving when something feels off. It becomes rebuilding trust with yourself, one small decision at a time. And those small decisions don't feel dramatic, but they rewire your brain in ways that therapy alone can't. Each time you honor your own signal, you send your nervous system a message that says, I've got you now. And that message slowly replaces the survival programming that kept you stuck. But there's one more layer to this healing that most people completely overlook, and it explains why some days you feel strong and other days you feel like you're back at the beginning. Healing after narcissistic abuse isn't linear, and that messes with your head. One day you feel clear, confident, motivated. The next day you feel tired, emotional, and distracted. So you think you're failing. But what's really happening is your system is processing old emotional patterns in waves. Your brain is updating. Your body is releasing stored stress. And that release doesn't always look peaceful. Sometimes it looks like sadness, irritability, or mental fog. That doesn't mean you're going backward. It means your system finally feels safe enough to let go. And when that happens, it can feel uncomfortable before it feels better. Most people quit on themselves right here, thinking something is wrong with them, not realizing they're standing right at the doorway of a major internal shift. And if you stay through this phase, something changes in how you experience yourself that's hard to describe until you feel it. Slowly, your energy stops being controlled by other people's moods. Your thoughts stop revolving around what you should have said or done. Your focus starts returning to your own goals, your own interests, your own future. You start making choices based on what supports you instead of what keeps the peace. And without forcing it, you begin to feel stronger, clearer, and more grounded. Not because life became perfect, but because you stopped living in constant emotional reaction. That's the real freedom people talk about. And it doesn't arrive with fireworks, it arrives quietly, in moments where you realize you're not anxious like you used to be, not doubting yourself like you used to, not chasing validation like you used to. And once you notice that shift, you can't unsee it, and that awareness becomes your new starting point. So if self-care feels hard right now, it doesn't mean you're failing at healing. It means you're in the middle of rewiring survival patterns that kept you alive in a situation that required constant emotional defense. Be patient with that process. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're rebuilding from a place that most people never have to experience, and that takes real strength, even on the days it feels quiet and invisible. And the more you honor small moments of rest, peace, and self-respect, the faster your system learns that you are no longer in danger, that you no longer have to earn your right to breathe, and that your life is allowed to feel calm without waiting for the next storm. And if this hit close to home, if you're still unlearning what a narcissistic relationship taught you about love, worth, and survival, stay connected here. Subscribe, because this space is about rebuilding your power, your clarity, and your peace, not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by learning how to move forward without carrying it on your back.